I started this channel about a year ago, and in that time I got a lot of questions in the comments, in the DMs, and even in my email. So I thought, why not make a video and answer some of those questions? And since none of you asked to be included in some kind of Q&A, I will not be using screenshots by the actual questions, but I will put the questions up on screen. So let's get to it. I'm not sure what it's going to be called yet, but I'm sure I'm going to make up a title and put it on screen right now. Question number 1. Do you make a living as a musician? The short answer is no. I got a normal day job, but it's one that's flexible enough, that gives me enough space to do a lot of things with music when I'm not there at work. I could have made different choices, but I always wanted to do my own thing. I didn't want to play music. I didn't want to play. I actually applied twice to music school, the first time on bass, I think, and the second time on guitar. But both times I bailed out because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Ever since I started making music, I have been making original music. And I've been doing the thing that I actually really wanted to do. So I wanted to go my own course and see where that takes me. And it maybe got me close sometimes, but not close enough to actually make a living out of it. I do earn some money with making music, but not enough to make a living. And I'm fine with that because, yeah, I have different priorities. I always prioritized having a family someday. And not that that's not possible if you want to try to make your living as a musician, but I wanted something maybe a bit more safe and comfortable and just something that gave me space to do whatever I wanted with music without the necessity of making a living out of it. So I'm not judging anyone who makes a different decision or has made a different decision than I did. But no, I don't make my living as a musician. I did go to film school instead of music school, and I worked in that field for a long time. But also with that, making your hobby your profession brings its own risks. And I stopped doing that because I did so many jobs that I didn't like to do, which also made me dislike my hobby, that I chose a different career path, and I'm happy with that. And I know my film school days are not completely noticeable in my videos, but that's basically because I don't have a lot of time to make these YouTube videos, because I'm doing it next to a full-time job, next to playing in multiple bands, and next to doing productions as a video maker and as a producer here in my studio. So, yeah. Question number 2. If my phone will unlock. What other bands did take time for you to appreciate? And this stems from the Eagles video that I recently did, where I talked about not clicking with the Eagles right away, but after taking some time, getting a liking to it. One of the other bands I had this with was Led Zeppelin, which is one of my, if not my favorite bands for a long time. My dad let me hear a lot of Led Zeppelin in my early teenage years, and I didn't dislike it, but it didn't do anything for me right away until I saw the Song Remains the Same DVD, where they opened with rock and roll, and suddenly hearing and seeing everything live did something magic for me. Queens of the Stone Age is also a band I took some time to get into. I had a lot of bandmates back then that were listening to Queens of the Stone Age and were trying to get me into it. And once I did, I really did. And one of the most recent ones was Pink Floyd. It's actually one of those bands that fits everything that I like in music, but it never really clicked with me. But my wife is a big Pink Floyd fan, and I think it was the moment she let me hear Echoes from the, I think it's the Metal vinyl. Once I heard that, I was sold, and everything I listened from Pink Floyd after that, I really got into it a lot more. So sometimes it's just something that you gotta hear or see, or it just has to click something, and then it works. Question number 3. Why don't you do guitar lessons on your channel? And to be honest with you, I think there are a lot of channels out there that do a really good job at this. I did teach some guitar way back when, but my music theory knowledge is not really great. I'm not the best technician on guitar, so I don't think I'm really qualified to do YouTube guitar lessons. I do talk about music production, sound shaping, sound searching, all that kind of stuff, and everything that's related to my experience. That's something I feel comfortable talking about, but yeah, music lessons or guitar lessons on my channel is just not my thing, and I think there are way better channels out there that can help you with this. Question number 4. What's the ultimate budget rig in your opinion? Ragasti, of course. But to be serious, I think that's a pretty easy question. At least if you're playing the same kind of music that I'm doing, because yeah, if you're looking for metal sounds, you're on the wrong channel, unfortunately. But for an amp, I would definitely go for the Vox AC15 with a greenback, just the cheapest, easiest version. I think that's the best bang for buck tube amp you can get out there. And for a guitar, I would go for a Epiphone. I think they're inspired by Gibson, is what they're called, that series, or a Squier Classic Vibe. And with both, I would make sure that you get a good one, so check the fretwork and everything else, and get it set up by a luthier, good and well, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the ultimate budget rig. So either an Epiphone inspired by Gibson series, a Squier Classic Vibe series, with a Vox AC15 with a greenback. I think that's the best bang for buck. And it might not be cheap. I think it's still between 1,000 and 1,200 bucks. But yeah, I still think that's the best that money can buy if you want to go cheap. And I mean, yeah, it's not cheap for everyone, but in some cases you don't even get a guitar for that kind of money. And I think whether you're a beginner, advanced or intermediate or professional, I think you could play with one of those guitars and that amp and get along really well. Question number 5, is boutique better? Well, I got some gear that would be considered to be boutique, like my Dr. Z amp and Zilla cabinet over there. I got Wiz pickups in one of my Les Pauls. I got some pedals that will probably be boutique. What I like about it is it has a certain charm and a likability factor to pay your money on a smaller company that makes something a bit more unique. Not in all cases, because in some cases they do their own twist on something that's already existing. But it's something different. It doesn't sound the same than everything else out there that's in mass production. But it also brings along the advantage that you're directly in touch with the people making the products. Like with the Zilla cabinet, I could tell them what I was looking for. I could ask them for advice, and I could tell them which kind of speakers I wanted. And the same thing with the Wiz pickups I got. But I don't think it's necessarily better than anything mass-produced. There are a lot of pedals out there that are mass-produced, that are cheap, but that are great. So I don't think boutique is better. It just has a different charm to it, which I like, but I also like a lot of mass-produced stuff. So no cocksniffery from me on this regard. Question number 6. Should you play covers or make original music? And I think that's a very personal question. You should do what you think you should do or what you like to do best. In my case, I did some cover work here and there throughout my years as a musician, and I can enjoy it from time to time if it's on a project basis or if I need to fill in somewhere or just learning songs. But for most of my time, I like to make original music, but there's nothing wrong with playing covers. And actually, you can make a lot more money around here if you do just play in a cover band. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not something I enjoy doing the most. But if you do, you should do that. I mean, that's actually the or my answer to this question. You should do what you enjoy to do the most. And that's the right answer to this. The only right answer. Question number 7. Do you prefer guitar, bass, singing, or something else? I have dabbled in a lot of things. I did a bit of drumming. I had a drum set. I was not really particularly good at that. And that was after I was already playing guitar for years. I also did some keys with older bands. I did some key parts, but I don't actually know how to play the piano, so everything was by ear. Yeah, what I've been doing mostly is playing guitar. Eventually, I also started playing bass. I think 1 year into playing guitar, I also started playing bass. And after a while, I also started to sing. And that was actually something that was more out of necessity, because I don't really consider myself to be a singer and I don't always like to sing. But I started writing lyrics and yeah, helping out with writing vocal melodies and lyrics with my first serious band. And it was actually the singer of that band that encouraged me to start singing more and be a lead singer myself. And yeah, because it's pretty difficult to find a lead singer, and when you're young and you just want to go ahead with your band, there comes a time where you say, you know, fuck it, I will try it myself. And yeah, ever since I started doing that, I never got rid of that. So yeah, I think I'm a reluctant singer. I do like to sing from time to time, but there are times that I'm thinking to myself that I would just like to play guitar and not worry too much about also having to sing. But I still didn't answer the question, I'm noticing now. Um, yeah, I just like to make music. That's basically it. I mean, I really enjoy playing guitar, but I also have a lot of fun playing bass, even though I really haven't played that much bass since I stopped doing anything with my band Crazy Code Roadshow, in which I played bass. But actually, we are going to rehearse again for the first time in 4 years this Saturday. And I played a bit of bass yesterday, and it was fun. So yeah, I cannot really answer that question. I just like to make music, and which instrument I'm playing doesn't really matter as long as I can enjoy making the music. So yeah, that's that. The last question, question number 8. Why does your singing voice sound so much different from your talking voice? Yeah, I get that a lot. As you might have noticed all throughout this video, I got a pretty low voice, and when I'm singing a bit higher. I mean, not like Scissor Sisters high or like Bee Gees high, but I'm also actually talking a bit higher when making these videos, so you can understand what I'm saying a bit better, because I also already got an accent. So if I'm talking in a really low voice with an accent, I become more like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and yeah, it's a bit more difficult to understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, if I sing in my speaking voice with the kind of music that I'm making, I would drown in the music. So I think a long time ago, I had to somehow find the right space for my voice to fit in. And it's not just the register that I'm singing in, because of course my highest register is not as high as people with a less low voice. But it's also the way I had to shape my voice. I'm singing a lot of mid voice, and I'm cutting a lot of the bass out of my voice when I'm singing, and it's something I did, I think, undeliberately. But if you have a deep voice and you don't sing in a really high register, and you're playing live with a bad monitor, you don't hear yourself, so you start singing differently. And most of that, I think, was cutting out some of the lows in my voice and pushing more of the mids through. It sounds really weird when you're talking about your own voice, because yeah, I'm talking about it in a way I would set an amp. But yeah, maybe that's something I did throughout the years with my voice. But I get that a lot. If people hear me talking and they hear a song of me or from my band on Spotify, or see a music video or a live video from one of my bands, and they see and hear me singing there, they think it's strange because my voice sounds so different. I don't really hear it, but of course when I'm talking, I'm hearing myself, and I hear everything different than you hear me. I'm kind of rambling here, but yeah, I think you get the point. It's something that just evolved through the years while I was singing, and I think that's how I have to sing to be able to sing in the kind of music that I'm making. Thank you for all of your questions. Even though you didn't know this would be used for a video like this, I hope this has been fun for you to watch. It was something different for me to film, so I'm curious how this turns out in the edit, because it felt a bit weird. It was the first time that I talked about myself like this, and I noticed myself looking away from the camera a lot while I was doing this, at my phone or somewhere else in the space like I'm doing now. But if you think this was fun and you want to see me do this again sometime, just drop questions. The easiest thing is to do this in one of the comments of my YouTube videos, because if you send me DMs on Instagram, I try to answer, but I don't always have time to. And it's easier to look back in the comment section on YouTube if I ever want to make something like this again. But that's up to you. It was something I wanted to try, something I wanted to do. It seemed like fun, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next time.